rolling up on the high school in a service truck. Talked with the guy, commissioner that I worked with a bunch. They've got new basketball backboards up here for one of the courts that's on the county up here, back behind the high school. They've got some cheap backboards up there now, and they've been bending them, pulling the hoop down. It's something that somebody, last time I saw it, looked like they had tried to do a repair on it. Looked like they took a piece of tubing and bolted up there. But anyway, the county's got new backboards for it, and the thing's going to be, will they adapt, and how will they adapt to the poles that are already there at that court? And the other thing they were talking about is those backboards, usually they get some kind of bracing put on them. I've seen some pictures that the athletic director sent me of different kind of bracing that was on basketball backboards. Coming up here near the court now, I'm going to take a look and see what this turns into. I've already measured the backboards, the new backboards that they bought. And next thing's just going to be to see what kind of bracketry and what kind of measurements is on the bracketry on those poles. So that's what's crack-a-lacking today. Trying to rest my right arm. It's been hurting pretty bad. My chiropractor says it's tendonitis. It was bothering me pretty bad while I was building that bridge. And I said when I got the bridge done that I was going to rest it a little bit. I've been doing some other stuff since I did the bridge and haven't really rested it yet. So I went to Walmart and got a sling. And as soon as I get this pole measured and take a look at this, I'm going to put my arm in that sling and try not to do anything with my right arm for the rest of the day. So maybe we'll look at this some more later, but that's what's up for now. So we can see how this old one's pretty damaged, sagging down. There's been some aluminum tubing added as a brace. Doesn't look like that did much. That plate, not the thick plate that's welded to that 5-inch tube, but the thinner plate that's bolted to it, is bent really bad right in that area. The main reason why that basket's leaning down so far. So I just took a look at that plate there though, and that hole pattern in its width horizontally is 6 inches, and vertically it's 8 inches. That looks like a 1/2-inch plate on a 5x5 tube. Comes down to an adjustable setup there that's pretty nice on the vertical 6-inch tube, and I'm assuming that 6-inch tube is probably in the ground pretty good. It doesn't seem to be out of plumb or have any issues with that. So I'll have to see what it takes to adapt that to the new backboards. Got some new stuff cracking on this deal with these basketball backboards for the county. I got one of them basketball backboards here. We'll take a look at that real quick and I'll show you what I did. There's a hole pattern in the basketball backboard, and of course there's a hole pattern in the hoop, and I've come to find out that those hole patterns line up with each other, so you can put 6 bolts in there. So you got a hole pattern just like that in the backboard. And I'll tell you what I did on the other side of that. I took a regular piece of paper and I held it up on that pattern, and I took a pencil and I just scratched with the lead pencil, and I made a transfer, basically a carbon copy of those holes. I also did that with the hoop. That's how I found out when I take those two copies I made, one of the hoop and one of the basketball's backboard, I could line them up and I could tell that those things lined up. Well, the guys from the county took down that top section of the pole for me. They took these down. Obviously this one right here is the one that was really bent bad, and this is the side that I'm going to need to add a piece of steel onto to fasten that backboard to. And talked with the athletic director about bracing it. He sent me some images, different images of how they brace them, images that came from the manufacturer of the backboard. So I looked at those images and we came up with one that kind of works out with the parts we've already got, which is, you know, that's pretty good. There are different ways of bracing them, and some of them have more bracing and some of them have less, but he's thinking that the one that basically just puts a strong vertical leg from the bottom of the backboard to the top would take care of it. So that's pretty much the idea that we're going with. But so the first part for me is what am I going to use? Well, I've decided I'm going to use 10-inch channel. So I'm going to be welding a 10-inch channel onto those 5x5 rectangular tubes on the angle it takes to make the backboard plumb. And that 10-inch channel at the bottom of the channel is going to have those 6 holes drilled in it, so a bolt can go through the hoop, the backboard, and then on through this channel to bolt it all, put it all together. When I fabricate all those parts and weld it together, then the guys from the county can get that bucket truck up there again and put this whole thing together. So I'll show you real quick what I'm doing on the hole pattern. I got this 10-inch channel, and this is the copy I made with my pencil of the, you know, the hoop, the basket. This is the copy that I made of the backboard. Look close, you can see those circles showed up as the holes when I scratched that with my lead pencil. So the next thing I did is I marked that out on here like a grid, and then I folded that in half, and that gave me this fold in the center of my paper is obviously the center of my pattern. Then I had to figure out how far from the bottom of the steel to the first set of bolt holes. I came up with 1 3/4 inches, so I made me a mark there that lines up with these 2 bottom holes. Then I just take these magnets, stick that in place, and center punched right through the paper. Now, if I was only doing one of these, it would have been pretty tempting to just measure the pattern and lay it out and center punch it by marking it. Since there's 2 of them, I think it's a better idea to use the pattern. So I've done that on both sides, and I've got these ready to drill. So I'll be drilling 6 holes in each end of this 10-inch channel, and then I'll be measuring from here up 41 3/4 or 41 1/2, and I'll make me a mark and cut that off. And that'll make the 2 pieces that I need for that backboard. Most of y'all probably familiar with a mag drill, or at least seen a mag drill like I'm using. Probably seen one before. It's just an electromagnetic base. When you flip a switch, that magnet sticks to the steel. Basically a mobile magnetic drill press. These slugger bits, the reason they drill so fast obviously is pretty much comes down to the fact that they're not drilling out all the steel like a drill bit is. They function like a hole saw. They're just drilling the outside, and there's a plug that gets shot out of the center. These mag drills are really commonly used in structural yards and mechanic shops where guys got to drill holes in truck frames. You can run them sideways. The manufacturers, they recommend a liquid-based cutting fluid, and if you use that water-based cutting fluid like they recommend, it usually comes in a concentrate. So it's something that you're going to buy a product that's concentrated, then you're going to mix that product with water, and that's the fluid that you're going to put on your bit and in your drill. The way these drills work, as far as lubricating them, you can put the cutting fluid in this slot, and what that'll do, since this bit's hollow, when you make contact with the steel and that point goes up in there like that, the water or the fluid can come out the hole. So you've got fluid coming out of that hole as you drill. Works really well. And then when you raise this up, that point pops out and it pops that slug out. Now, in the structural shops I've worked in, we always used that concentrated water-based drilling fluid or cutting fluid. It's really sticky and it's nasty, and one of the things about it being so sticky and nasty is when you get it on the steel, if that's something you're going to paint, you need to get that off the steel before you paint it, because it will cause issues with paint sticking properly. Another problem with that water-based fluid that I never noticed when I worked in structural shops is if you don't use your mag drill and your bits every day and you use some kind of a water-based fluid, when you go back and get your tool out to use it, you'll find that your bits are rusting. And that's one of the reasons, as an owner-operator, I very often use oil. Dirty crankcase oil that I've taken out of the crankcase of my service truck or something. I use that as a cutting fluid because when my bits and my tool here is all oily, it doesn't rust if I don't use my tool for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever. I never noticed that in a structural shop because the mag drill and the bits in a structural shop, they get used every day. They don't have time to rust. If I wasn't drilling with the mag drill in the structural yard one day, somebody else was. So you just, until I get in a situation like now where my mag drill may go weeks or a month or whatever without being used, that's when I realized that water-based fluids, not the greatest for having on there for storage. Now, on things that I'm going to paint, I don't want to use my dirty crankcase oil out of my truck, because then I got to get that off of there. I don't want to use any water-based cutting fluid, because when you mix up that concentrate, like I said, it'll cause issues with primer and paint also. So on something like these basketball backboard braces, I am going to paint these. I did mag drill them, and what I used as a fluid was just plain water. And I've done that before because I felt like I didn't want to get a water-based cutting fluid or an oil on the part, but I didn't want to run the bit dry. And what I've pretty much noticed, at least for my use, I can't hardly tell any difference between using pure water and using a water-based cutting fluid. Maybe that cutting fluid is a little better because it's sticky, but considering the way that water's free almost, I mean, you can put a lot of it on there. You could stand there and spray water at it the whole time if you wanted to. I don't see for a mag drill application any benefit to mixing up those concentrates at all. And I definitely wouldn't use the water-based concentrate cutting fluid on something that I was going to paint. Now, after I've used that water on the bit, before I put it away, I put some oil on it. Otherwise, you might get it out and it'd be rusty. But what I notice is that I so often use oil on my bits. If I drill a few holes with pure water, it doesn't really cause the bit to rust. The bit's so oily, it's like it gets a oily film on it that stays on there for quite a while. You know, it kind of, I oil it so much from the jobs where I actually do use oil. When I use a little water, it just seems like the water doesn't stick. It's like an old cast iron skillet with a good seasoning to it. It just, nothing sticks. So just a quick notes on what I was thinking on the mag drill, and we'll get back to work. Got these primed and painted there yesterday evening. Yesterday I was working on this, as putting this together and welding it up, and it was really cool how all that went down, because on this one right here I was putting it together, and that was the first one that I put together. And you look at something like this, that pole is plumb and that plate goes against the pole. So while that is plumb, this needs to be plumb. In other words, that piece and that piece needs to be parallel. And another part of that, when you put something like that together, when this hole pattern right here is plumb, that channel should be plumb. So I was working on using the levels and using the bevel square and the different tools with my jack stands, and I got that channel put onto that tube, and I got it on there at the right angle. I got it square, which is another part. This channel has to be, square with that. So I got it on at the right angle. I got it square. I got it where it would be plumb both ways when it was assembled. And what I did on that first one is I had that channel completely backwards. I had those legs facing that way, and I had that tab going that way, totally 180 degrees out. And by the time I realized I had done it, I had already welded a pass all the way around it. And I was kind of laughing at myself, because sometimes when you make a mistake on fabrication, you'll look at it and you'll come up with a way to use it, or you'll come up with a way to make it work, or whatever, where there's some way you realize you've got something where you didn't mean to do it that way, but if we do this thing like this, it'll work. On a situation like that, you're not going to fix it. You're going to take a torch and cut it off like immediately, because it's wrong. It's totally wrong. Okay, so that was cool. So I screwed that up. So I go over and I get the torch, and I commenced to cutting it back off there. Well, I did not have I had 3 jack stands under that at the time. And I had 2 under that tube holding the tube, and I only had 1 holding the channel. And I don't know how I ended up with only 1 holding the channel. I must have taken one of them out once I tacked it up. Probably while I was turning it around welding it. So what I did was, with only 3 jack stands there, and me torching that off and not realizing I only had 3 jack stands, that big old heavy piece of 10-inch channel fell on the floor. And chopped off my power cord. Chopped the power cord right off of that reel right there. So it's like, you start screwing stuff up, and you just keep, when I start messing up, I just keep on doing it sometimes. So I shouldn't have had the power cord under there where I was torching. I should have had the piece secured not only with 4 jack stands instead of 3, but cutting something apart, I probably should have had the hoist on it too. And I should have put it on there the right way in the first place, and none of this would have happened. But look, that's what happened. Full disclosure. That's how it went down. But these are done, and now they're right. And they're painted up. They look good. And I'm good with it. So probably going to figure out how to get these out of here and see what's next. Thought I'd just stop by and see. And sure enough, the guys from county maintenance got them basketball backboards put up. Looks like that bracket worked out all right. Great. Nice outdoor court here. So that's done.